May it please the court, counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. This case relies on the strong and overwhelming amount of circumstantial evidence to show that the defendant, Dusty Savage, is guilty of the murder of Caroline Polaris. Caroline was a prosecutor of Nassau County. She handled gruesome and high-level criminal cases, such as the one we're here for today. Her role as a prosecutor was to uphold and fight for the justice of victims and the community who had criminal acts committed against them. Today, she is one of those victims. Because of the criminal acts of the defendant, she can no longer uphold her duty as a prosecutor and fight for the justice of our community. The morning of October 23rd probably started like any other day. She most likely woke up, went into work, went about her day, and returned to her apartment later that afternoon. Everything after that changed. Caroline was seen at work on October 23rd, but not on October 24th. On the morning of October 24th, a cleaning lady entered her apartment and found her body and promptly called 911. Detective Bain was the one who responded to that call. Upon entering the apartment, he found her body with her head in a pool of blood. He believes the cause of death to be blunt force trauma to the head. Upon further investigation of the apartment, Detective Bain found an unlocked door, no sign of forced entry, and an open window leading to a fire escape. However, to understand how this case plays out, it takes more than an understanding of the events of that night. Caroline and Dusty were not only co-workers, but were involved in a romantic relationship. They shared this romantic relationship in 2022. Dusty told his wife about the affair he was having with Caroline in 2023. However, we believe the romantic relationship did not end after that. Dusty sent 6 angry, unpleasant, and unanswered texts to Caroline on the day of the murder. Caroline responded later that night, telling him to come over. That was the last text that Caroline sent, and it was the last known communication before her death. Now, the autopsy report will show that the estimated time of death was between 3 p.m. and 11 p.m. of October 23rd. It will further show that no DNA was in the fingernails and there were no defensive wounds on the upper extremities of Caroline. This leads us to believe that it was not a random attack, but rather someone that she knew, or it was an attack that she didn't see coming. Now, the forensic report shows semen in the victim is from an A negative blood type. That is the same blood type as the defendant and as shared with only 6% of the whole U.S. population. This leads us to believe that the defendant and the victim were engaged in a romantic relationship sometime around the date of the murder. Finally, it will show that Dusty arrived at Caroline's apartment and was there between 7:03 p.m. and 7:54 p.m. on October 23rd. This falls well within the time frame of Caroline's death. Now, Dusty doesn't just kill Caroline, but he injects himself into the investigation of her murder. He initially stated he was appointed to the case due to its high profile and the need for it to be resolved before the next election of the district attorney. Dusty attempts to lead Detective Bain down a rabbit hole and tells him to look towards people that Caroline has prosecuted in the past, and even goes as far as telling him that investigating coworkers would be a waste of his time. Detective Bain went as far as asking Dusty about his relationship with Caroline. Dusty's response to that question was only about the amount of cases that they worked on together, and was not about their prior romantic relationship or any current romantic relationship that he had with Caroline. Now, the circumstantial evidence surrounding Caroline's murder is substantial and should lead you to find that Dusty is the killer of Caroline Polaris. The defense may want you to believe that Caroline and Dusty were not in a relationship at all, or they might want you to believe that those text messages that were sent on the day of Caroline's murder, those angry text messages that were sent, were in relation to their professional relationship and not any romantic relationship. However, the circumstantial evidence in this case should speak for itself. It is today that we submit to you, the jury, the case of the murder of Caroline Polaris. With circumstantial evidence, we ask that you find, beyond a reasonable doubt, that on or about October 23rd, 2023, in the county of Nassau, the defendant, Dusty Savage, caused the death of Caroline Polaris, and the defendant did so with the intent to cause the death of her. We ask that you find the defendant guilty as charged of murder in the second degree. Thank you.